That was the moment her world flipped, long before she understood why he had followed her, and why revealing who he truly was would change both their lives forever. The night had begun like any other for Elena Hart, one of the youngest female CEOs in the city, brilliant, commanding, and known for her iron composure. But composure meant nothing when she found herself walking alone after her driver failed to show up and her phone battery died. With painful memories of her past trauma rising like ghosts, she turned into the nearest alley, desperate to cut through to the main street. She never expected footsteps behind her, fast, steady, closing in. She spun around, panicked, thinking she was about to be robbed or attacked. And her fear spilled out as a desperate cry, but the man who approached didn't move like a criminal. He moved with hesitation, regret, familiarity. His name was Noah Briggs, a quiet single dad who worked in her company's maintenance department. She saw him almost every day, sweeping floors with tired eyes, fixing broken lights before sunrise, clocking out early to pick up his son. She had never spoken more than a few words to him. She didn't know his story. She didn't know his pain. And she didn't know why he was here, or why he seemed just as scared as she was. Noah lifted his hands to show he meant no harm. "I promise, I'm not here to hurt you," he said softly, his voice cracking in a way she'd never heard inside the polished halls of Hart Industries. "I followed you because I recognized that man who bumped into you earlier. He's trouble. I've dealt with him before. I didn't want him circling back to you." Her breath stilled. She remembered the rough stranger who had brushed past her near the parking lot, the one whose eyes lingered too long. Noah continued, "I know what he's capable of. I wasn't going to let him hurt you. Not again." "Again?" Elena whispered, but Noah didn't answer yet, because the truth required going back years, to a life she never imagined he'd lived. Noah had once been a paramedic, a skilled, calm, dependable medic whose life revolved around saving others. But one night changed everything. His wife, Emily, had been struck by a drunk driver. Noah arrived on scene before the ambulance, forced to watch the woman he loved fade away in his arms. Grief shattered him. He quit his job. He couldn't bear the sound of sirens anymore. He became a janitor for the sake of survival and for his son, Mason, who was only 6 then, now 9. The man Noah recognized, the one who bumped into the CEO, was the same driver who had killed Emily. The man had served less than a year and walked free. Noah never forgot his face. Elena stared at Noah under the street lamp, shock filling her chest. She had judged him as quiet, invisible, ordinary. She never imagined he carried a story carved from loss. "And when I saw him go near you," Noah said, swallowing hard, I couldn't let another innocent person get hurt. Not again. Not someone who didn't deserve it." Elena felt guilt twist inside her, not because she'd misjudged him, but because she had never once bothered to truly see him. "Noah," she whispered, I didn't know." "You weren't supposed to," he replied gently. "I'm just the janitor. You have bigger things to think about." But he was wrong. Because at that moment, Elena Hart, the woman who commanded boardrooms, felt something she rarely felt, fear mixed with vulnerability, and unexpected trust. She felt her knees weaken as adrenaline faded. Noah instinctively stepped closer, catching her before she fell. She didn't pull away. "Are you hurt?" he asked. "My arm," she murmured. "I fell earlier, trying to get away." Noah looked at her injury with the eyes of someone who had once saved lives for a living. "Sit," he said softly. "Let me take a look." She lowered herself to a small step beside the alley wall. Noah knelt before her, humble, gentle, careful. He examined her bruise the way he might examine his son's, murmuring instructions, telling her when it might hurt, checking for swelling. "I'll get you out of here," he said. "But stay close." As they walked, her mind kept circling back to one question: why didn't you ever tell anyone who you were? That you were a paramedic? He gave a small, broken smile. "Because the day I lost Emily, I lost the part of myself that cared about titles. I just wanted to be a father." And keep my son safe. What about keeping yourself safe? Elena asked. He paused, looked at her with something raw in his eyes. I stopped worrying about that a long time ago. When they finally reached the main street, Elena's voice softened. Thank you, for following me. For protecting me. For revealing who you really were. Noah shook his head. Anyone would have done it. No, she said, stepping closer. Not everyone would risk reliving the worst night of their life to save someone else. Noah didn't know what to say. He lowered his gaze, humble, unsure, human. Elena took a slow breath. Noah, tomorrow, come to my office. Early. He nodded, assuming he was in trouble for leaving his post, but she had something very different in mind. The next morning, Noah arrived, shoulders tense, expecting a warning, or worse, a dismissal. Instead, Elena stood with documents spread across her desk. Noah, she said softly, you're not invisible. Not anymore. I want to offer you a role that fits who you truly are, not the life grief pushed you into. He blinked, confused. You have a paramedic's instincts, she continued. A leader's calm under pressure. A father's heart. Our company is building a new employee care and safety program. I want you to lead it. Me? He whispered, stunned. Yes, she said. You. Because you saved more than my life last night. You opened my eyes. Tears filled Noah's eyes before he could stop them, and your son, Elena added gently, deserves to see his father rise again. For the first time in years, Noah felt purpose return like a heartbeat he thought he'd lost. Elena stepped closer. You protected me in the dark when no one was watching. Let me protect your future in the light. It was in that office, quiet, sunlit, filled with second chances, that their lives shifted. A CEO who finally slowed down enough to see humanity. A single dad who rediscovered the man he used to be. Two broken pasts, crossing paths at the perfect moment, because sometimes, the greatest changes begin not with power, but with vulnerability, not with authority, but with compassion, not with titles, but with courage, the courage to reveal who you really are to someone who never expected it. And from that night on, the CEO who once stood alone, and the single dad who once stood broken, walked forward into a future neither of them planned, but both of them desperately needed.